So you seek the answer to the eternal question. No, not why is he wearing those ridiculous goggles. Or indeed are we seeking the Holy Grail, because I've already got one. Those of you who are tuning in from the short introduction to how much does it cost to build a cafe racer, thank you for swapping over to a sensible format. I appreciate you being here. Do give the video the thumbs up and subscribe down here somewhere if you haven't already. And of course encourage others to watch my lunacy. So yeah, what was the question? Oh yeah, how much does it cost? Yes, get on with it, man. Well, obviously first up there's the cost of the bike itself. My experience tells me that you don't really need to spend any more than about $3,000 to get your base bike. And just to prove it, here's what I spent on the bikes that I've done so far, just to buy the bike. Okay, you got your mystery bike. And now you're going to start chopping it up, throwing stuff away. But don't be in a rush to throw stuff away. We'll come to that later. So I'm guessing you've got an idea in your head about what you want this thing to look like. It's probably going to involve a frame chop, a racing seat, drop bars, all kinds of modifications, even a fork swap. Although a cheap alternative to that is to chop the front forks. Probably do a separate issue on that. Anyway, while we're on the subject, fork swap, minimum $500, because you've got to buy the forks and wheel and brakes and everything. Focus, man, we're 5 minutes in and you haven't covered anything. Alright, let's start at the front and work back. And while we're at the front, we're not going to cover any kind of maintenance items that you're probably going to need to do anyway, honestly, like brake pads, maybe a new tyre, etc, oil change, blah-de-blah-de-blah. So you probably need to allow at least $200 to $300 for all that stuff. Okay, so in the handlebar area, we're going to be probably looking at clip-ons. These are actually Yamaha ones that already fit, but clip-on bars that clip onto the actual forks generally start around $35 upwards. Levers, new levers, these actually are pretty good, and they were about $35 for the pair, which is quite phenomenal. Because they include all the switchgear for your sensors and lights and everything else. They include the reservoir. These particular ones do. These ones don't, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, because then you've got to find a reservoir and mount it somewhere else, so I wouldn't recommend that. But yeah, pretty good value for $35. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the cheapest number that you can buy this stuff for, but bear in mind that throughout the whole thing you can multiply that by 5 or 10 if you want to. Throttle grip, $30. Handlebar grips, $6. Switch gear, $35. You might need more than one. Headlight, $35. New brake lines, $25 upwards. Engine paint, $20 a can, or more depending on what colour you want. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Speedo, GPS speedo unit. Unbelievably less than $20 for this one. Up to kind of 85, and of course more. Fuel tank, well, fuel tanks you can buy, so here's a custom fuel tank, supposed to fit CB750, but it didn't exactly, so we had to move the fuel tap, and that cost $75 to move the tap. Tank costs $45. Then of course there's the paint and the stickers, which is another $50. Or you can just go with the original tank. You're still going to need paint and stickers, probably, and a lot of patience. Or you're going to take it to a professional painter who's going to charge you several $100s, because it's a tedious process. Carburetors, another minefield. AirPods you probably get for like, I want to say like $10 each. It's worth spending a little bit more as usual. But of course then the carbs are probably going to need rejetting and possibly rebuilding. So the rebuild kits are actually pretty reasonable. They're usually around 30 bucks. Again, yeah, everything's 30 bucks. But to get it rebuilt, if you don't know what you're doing, probably a couple of hundred minimum. And then rejetting kits can be 75 bucks-ish, because they usually come from specialist racing type guys, whatever, and therefore they're expensive. So yeah, don't just slap on AirPods and expect it to run properly. Pedals and pegs. Pedals are kind of complicated to replace, and if you buy like a rear set kit, you're going to have to do some fabrication just to get it to work at all. So I would recommend stay with the standard ones, but it's up to you. Pegs, again, range from like $6 upwards each. But it's probably worth allowing at least 30 bucks for the pair. Yes, 30 bucks again. Batteries, you're always probably going to replace the battery. This is a good old-fashioned one with fluids and acid and whatever. This is a tiny little one. That was about 25 bucks. It's actually really good for a test battery. I bought it because it was tiny and I needed it for space. Your average battery, again, usually worth spending a little bit more. You can get away with 40 bucks. I would probably go around the 75 buck range, and of course you can spend a lot more. This Honda came with an anti-gravity battery, which are rather lovely, and about 180 bucks, I think. Moving down, fuse boxes, again you can spend around 30 bucks. No, really, everything's around 30 bucks. Oops, nearly forgot the exhaust system. Yes, both my Hondas have a Delcovic exhaust system. They are one of the aftermarket systems that are readily available. They are around 500 bucks, just a little bit under. They're a good quality product and they fit. There are others. I was very tempted to buy one that was 1,200 bucks, but it was just too much, but it was beautiful. On the other hand, you can adapt the existing exhaust system. So with this one, I used the existing downpipes. I married those to a Y connector, which you can just about see. So 2 into 1, and then a little end piece from China. The Y pieces happen to come from some lovely guys in the UK who will make you up a Y piece to any specification that you require, and they were about 65 bucks. The end piece from China, I think, was about 30 bucks again, yes, for the pair, by the way. Electrics wise as a whole, minefield again. You're probably going to want to buy a new regulator rectifier combined unit for an older bike. They're around, I want to say about 60 bucks. HT leads and stuff like that you might need to replace, but that's kind of a maintenance item. While we're down here and on the same kind of subject, chain, you're going to be looking at 50 to 100 bucks for a new chain, potentially a new rear socket, again around about the 50 buck mark, depending on what bike you chose in the first place. And that leads us nicely onto shock absorbers, where you can spend all kinds of money. As usual, probably not best to go for the real cheap and cheerful. These were not expensive, but they weren't the cheapest. I think they were around 65, 75 bucks. Or you can stick with the originals. So where does that leave us on our tally? I bet you it's under 3 grand, including the price of the bike, if you were shrewd. So of course you want to know, how do you bring that down to a net zero? Apart from your labour costs, of course, because you're going to be working for $0 an hour. Well, we'll cover the net zero in the next episode, so thanks for watching. And if you haven't already subscribed, because you'll need to do that to get the next episode, right? And yeah, give the video the thumbs up. What else? Oh, yeah. Encourage others to watch my lunacy.